Yo, whoa, what's going on YouTube? It's your big bro Nate. It's gonna be a good video today, guys. I'm gonna switch it up a little bit. I wanna talk to you guys about a little bit of, my upbringing. I think this is gonna help a lot of the guys out there. Some of the younger guys, and even if you're not younger, I think it's gonna help put things in perspective. Maybe you had these experiences when you were younger. Maybe you lived through this. Maybe you're wrestling with them at an older age. Maybe you're thinking back to your childhood, whatever it might be, right? So here's what I would do, right? I would hear me out, make up your own decisions, and go from there. So guys, when I was younger, right, these are some things I wish I would have known when I was younger, right? And I'm in my upper 20s right now, so I think I'm more than qualified to talk about this, right? You don't need no Jordan Peterson or Joe Rogan or anything crazy like that, right? You got your big bro Nate. And that's what I try to do. I try to keep it real with you guys. I don't like to over intellectualize this crap, right? I don't like to go off the rails. I don't like to, make this some scientific thing. No, it's like, this is real life, guys. You need real life, advice. Well, maybe what I'm going to give you is going to be worth something, right? It's unlicensed. So when I was growing up, I went through a lot of different phases, right? I'm not gonna lie. We're just gonna skip the first 17 years of my life. Nah, I'm just kidding with you. We're actually gonna start pretty much at the beginning. So guys, when I was younger, right, I was always homeschooled, right? Homeschooled my whole life. There's gonna be people going, oh, that explains a lot, right? You get one of two reactions. Oh, that explains a lot, dude. Or, oh my gosh, I had no idea. Both are hilarious. But I was homeschooled my whole life, right? So I was at home a lot. I have two younger brothers, and growing up, got to just kind of do my own thing, right? I got to play with Legos. I got to build things. I got to play outside. I got to read a lot of books that I wanted to read, right? So if I was interested in a subject, I would read it. So I would read a bunch about, pyramids and sharks and bugs, and I would capture bugs in a bug cage, and I'd capture praying mantises, and I'd throw other bugs in there, and I'd see the praying mantis eat the bugs, and all this stuff was super cool, right? I got really into sharks and jaws, and it was all about sea animals, right? Really into astronomy, the stars, the planets, Egypt, right? I remember Egypt was one of my, the first things I was really into. It was either Egypt or bugs or both. I can't remember. Maybe one led to the other. But growing up, I was so curious about everything. I wanted to know about everything. Like, if it was scientific in some way, I wanted to know. And then weather. Oh my gosh, guys. Meteorology, I was the biggest weather nerd ever. And so I learned about all these things. I wanted to know about it. And as I got older, tech, right? Apple tech, especially. I wanted to know the ins and outs. I used to know so many specifications of, there was an app back in the day. It's like, God, I feel so ancient dating myself. Goodness, how long ago is this? This was like probably almost 15 years ago. Goodness gracious, like 2012, 2013, somewhere around there. There was an app. This is so funny. Some of you guys might remember this. There was an app you could get where it would have all the product specs of Apple products. I'm such a nerd looking back. Anyway, I even had a goal one time in my life. I wanted to have every single iPod, every single Apple device ever created, and have this shrine, this museum exhibit dedicated to it, right? Just crazy stuff, right? I was always a weirdo. But anyway, so I was reading through a bunch of these things. I also had a little bit of a friend group, right? So I had some friends at my local church. We were homeschooled. We didn't really do anything until I was 14. I'll get into that here in a second. Mainly everything was with my church group. Grew up in a small town, Reformed Baptist church, and made a lot of really good friends. Had a lot of really good experiences growing up. And I remember, growing up, we'd go over to my friend's house in the summer and we'd go swimming. That was awesome, right? We'd go swimming. They had some land. They had 8-9 acres. We'd go out there, they had a little pond. I'd go out there and I'd hunt bugs, and we'd hunt for different things. When we got older, we played airsoft, right? We'd go out there to shoot airsoft guns at each other, running around in camo, trying to hide and shoot each other with all these guns, and building forts and shields and all this stuff. And we did sword fighting with swords and shields, and Wooden, of course, not real. Goodness, I probably wouldn't be here if it was real. No, just kidding. I would have been the only one left. Anyway, I'm full of myself, guys, if you haven't figured it out. But also played a lot of video games, right? Growing up, I was a video game nerd. I was very into video games till I was about 10 or 11. Played a lot of PlayStation, right? When I went to my friends, I would play GameCube, Nintendo, computer, like PC games, right? So like Team Fortress, Battlefield. It's like one of the old Battlefield games, like Desert Combat, I think it was called. Battlefield 1942? I don't know, it was one of the old ones on PC. You could fly around planes and helicopters. Well, helicopters in Desert Combat. Really fun, right? You know, we just go over there, have a good time. You know, played Magic the Gathering, right? For a bit, had a little bit of a D&D phase. Could never really get into it, but it was fun, you know, with friends. You know, smoked cigars with friends, you know, had some drinks, had a couple drinks. You know, nothing crazy. I was always trying to find out a way to socialize, especially when I was older, because I felt, you know, kind of trapped when I was younger. And I think some of that was the fact we had to work a lot. My family had to work. I was working since I was 8 years old, right? We were the janitors at my church full time. And guys, I'm gonna get to this here in a second. You know, this is some things I wish I would have known, you know, looking back, things I might have done a little bit differently if I was in y'all's shoes, especially in, you know, those teen years, because they're so crazy and confusing, right? Well, a lot of kids are just confused. But yeah, working very young age, right? We were the janitors for my church, actual janitors. So like, it wasn't just like picking up chairs, right? Wiping off some tables. It was like, no, we're vacuuming every single pew and the floor and every room in the church, taking out all the trash, wiping down all the toilets, windows, sinks, mopping, everything, right? And so, yeah, we did that. Shortly after, my mom, she started nannying. She started watching somebody. It was like it was a girl. She was like a couple months old or something like that, real young. We watched her until she was pretty much like 4, you know, until she could go to school. Then her sister came along a couple years after. They were like a couple years apart. So we started watching her. Then we ended up watching both of them like 5 days a week. It was crazy, right? My whole life was like work. It was like wake up early, work, you know, help my mom, go clean. It was crazy, right? When we go on vacations, we couldn't go on vacations for too long because we'd have to be back in time to clean again unless we got our friends who kind of helped us out eventually. Every so often they would like maybe take a day and clean for us, which was nice. But life for me, I'm gonna be real with you guys, like I was socially awkward. I was homeschooled, granted, but I was socially awkward until I was probably like 13, 14, 15. No, I was still socially awkward then, but this is when I started to socialize more, right? This is when I broke out of my shell. This is when I realized I was an extrovert, right? When I was about 14, 15 years old, we started going to a co-op. Started going to a co-op when I was about 15, almost 16. Somewhere in there. The co-op, if you guys don't know, it's like this extracurricular like school for homeschoolers that you go to usually once a week. Sometimes people, you know, different organizations do like twice a week. And I think that was one of the coolest points of my life, right? You know, peaked in high school. No, I'm just kidding. It was fun. It was really fun because I got to be around a lot of different people I'd never been around before. Got to play sports. I was always very competitive, still am. Love playing sports, love doing that stuff. Just naturally, you know, just natural athlete. Glory be to God. And met a lot of cool people, right? This is also when I started talking to girls, right? We'll get to that here in a second. But for a lot of you guys, this might be similar, right? A lot of you guys probably grew up in an environment that was maybe chaotic or maybe structured, right? Mine was kind of both in a lot of ways. And you might have grown up in a very sheltered environment. Maybe you moved around a lot. Maybe you didn't have a whole lot of friends. Maybe you did have a lot of friends. Maybe you kind of went through ebbs and flows. But some things that I wish I would have known, right? That was just to give you a little bit of a background. I've already talked about like college and stuff, but I'm gonna leave that for a different video. But I want to talk to you guys who are maybe a little bit younger, right? Your kids, right? I hate using that term, but hey, it is what it is. Sometimes you're gonna be a full-grown man like me, and you're gonna wonder where the time's flown. You're gonna go, goodness gracious, I need to start making videos like Nate did. Some things I wish I would have known, guys. You know, because honestly, life really doesn't get that hard. I'm gonna be real with you, until you like hit puberty, until you start, you know, around 11, 12, around the middle school years, right? I was homeschooled, so I don't really know what grade I was in. I just kind of like year to year was in a different grade. You know, my top in my class every year, which is pretty sweet. Anyway, right around that 11, 12 years old is when a lot of people are like, man, like, I can't figure out life, right? And I get it, guys. I was going through it, right? I always wanted to listen to music 24/7, didn't want to listen to my parents, just wanted to stay in my room all day and text my friends and see what was going on Instagram and social media. I was actually alive when Instagram first came out. I was like 13, 14, crazy times, right? I remember all these flagship apps. You know, I remember when Snapchat first came out, right? I remember having Snapchat shortly after it came out, you know, kind of a big deal. But yeah, I just wanted to like, you know, just be immersed in my own world, right? And that's how teenagers normally are for the most part. You just want to kind of do your own thing. You want to live in your own world. You want to be your own person. You don't want to listen to anybody. You just want to listen to your music. You just want to kind of be by yourself and do nothing, right? Yeah, you want to hang out with your friends, but for the most part, you just kind of want to do your own thing. You know, life's different. And I would say this, guys, like, enjoy those times. Man, enjoy those times, man. I don't regret. This is something crazy too I'm gonna get into, is do not live life with regrets. Like, I'm not saying be one of those like no regrets type of people, right? Don't be an idiot. Don't be a dumbass, right? I'm just gonna be straight up with you. Don't be a dumbass. You know, don't be 16 years old driving down the highway at 120 miles an hour drinking a bottle of vodka. You don't have to be a dumbass, right? You don't have to end your life or someone else's early, right? That we become so extreme these days. I feel sorry for a lot of people younger my age, not because of like you, but like the world that you grow up in. It's crazy what you have to do to feel like you have to fit in. I thought my life was tough, guys. Y'all have it completely different. Like, it's so much tougher. Like, y'all really have to, like, it seems like y'all have to do so much to fit in. Like, you have to be the prettiest or the most handsome or the most charming, or like, you know, you gotta look the most thug, be the most thug. You have to be the most outlandish, right? There's so many extremes, right? Everybody's competing to be seen, just to be heard, right? It's crazy. But just enjoy your life, man. If you are a nerd, be a nerd. But I'd also say be a well-rounded guy. Don't be the guy who's got freaking twig arms for his whole life, right? If you're a young dude, like, find a physical activity that you enjoy doing and do it, man. Like, I don't care if you're skinny. I don't care if you don't think you're fast. I don't think if you got asthma that you're gonna die if you start running, right? If you wanna run, freaking run, dude. Become a runner, right? Don't let the asthma hold you back. Don't let this crap hold you back, right? If you're skinny, and if you're real skinny, you're like, man, I don't want to go to the gym because I'm afraid people are gonna pick on me or judge me. Dude, forget about that, bro. If you want to go to the gym, go to the gym. If you want to be a powerlifter, be a powerlifter. If you want to be a swimmer, dude, be a swimmer. If you want to be a soccer player, football player, baseball, basketball, do it. If you want to learn an instrument, guys, do it if you got the opportunity and the means to, right? If you can learn to play piano or play the, violin or the freaking saxophone or the cymbal, dude, do it. Do it. Enjoy those times, right? If you're a nerd at Magic the Gathering or D&D, dude, have fun with that group of people, man. Like, don't let people talk you out of being who you want to be. I'm gonna throw something in here. It's gonna be super embarrassing, but I don't care because I want you guys to know how serious I am, right? So when I was growing up, like I said, I loved listening to music. Loved it, right? I loved all type of music. What's crazy, guys, is I loved listening to like boy bands, dude. I'm gonna be straight up with you. And this is where I think a lot of people, a lot of guys screw up. You guys might be laughing. You guys might be like, what the heck is he talking about? Hear me out. You know, my dad, he was a huge Beatles fan, right? My dad's like 40 years older than me, right? So I had an older dad growing up, which was really good in a lot of ways, right? Because he was an old school traditional guy, very red pill, right? Very, very. And he was a huge Beatles fan, right? And you guys have to remember, you know, the Beatles is, you know, we look at Beatles as like this, like archived artifact, like very classy, very like, whoa, the Beatles, like it's so classy, it's so like, wow, you know, like we put it in the same categories of like the biggest music of all time. You know, we put on such this like high pedestal of just music greatness, and a lot of their music is really great. However, when they first came out, guys, you have to remember they were the counterculture. They were like the boy bands that the fathers would see on TV, and you know, their daughters, maybe even their wife, would be like just oogling and just, you know, oh what? Oh my gosh, like just going crazy over these guys, right? They were the counterculture, right? They were what men didn't like, because it went against a lot of, you know, the principles and, you know, all the things back then. They were looked down upon, right? A lot of people didn't like them because of, again, the counterculture, you know, the music, you know, they were talking about things like drugs and sex and all this stuff, and it was like, what the heck? How dare you? That ain't right. That's sinful. You can't be doing that. You can't be having this on TV. This is the devil's work, guys. It's funny. It's really funny how it all panned out. But I like listening to boy bands for kind of that reason, because one, I just like the music, right? Like, I think personally, if One Direction stayed together, they'd probably be as big as the Beatles these days. But obviously they split up, they went their own ways. You know, one of them recently got, you know, was died. I'll just put it that way. That's a whole other story if you want to look into it. But yeah, they broke up, went their own ways. They each got their own, you know, pretty good music. I'm personally a Zayn fan, right? There was other boy bands that came out. You know, you had 5 Seconds of Summer. Obviously you had Justin Bieber, right? I love listening to Justin Bieber. And it was funny because a lot of the guys I was hanging around, or a lot of the guys I was just around at that time in my life, didn't really listen to these people. You know, I would be called things like gay. Dude, you're so gay, dude. How would you be listening to like boy bands and Justin Bieber? That's so gay, dude. Like, and the funny thing was, despite how they thought about it, I just kind of did what I wanted to do. Like, I didn't care. And the funny thing is I got along with these guys really well, right? A lot of these guys were trying to fit the typical bro mold, right? Like, I gotta be cool, right? I gotta drive a truck. I can't do anything that looks feminine or sounds feminine, right? I gotta be manly. I gotta be, and it was weird. It came off awkward. They didn't, you know, they had some girls here and there that, you know, kind of liked them. But what I noticed, guys, was by being myself, literally just being myself and not caring about it and just doing my thing, right? I got the girls that I wanted. That's the secret, guys. That is the secret, is you literally, to get the girls that you want, you have to be the man that you want. You're going to attract what you are. You're going to attract what you attract, right? If you are sincere, if you are genuine to yourself, you are going to attract the women that are going to be sincere and genuine for you. If you are narcissistic, if you're putting on a mask, if you're playing the part, you're going to attract those type of women, right? Because you can be attractive, you can be all these things, you can act a part, you can get women, but then you will not get the women who are good for you. You'll get fake women, you'll get shallow women, right? But if you're going to do something, if you're going to enjoy something, enjoy it. Don't care what people think. And the funny thing is, guys, when it comes down to things like, you know, let's say people make fun of you for listening to Justin Bieber, or for, you know, playing Magic the Gathering or whatever, right? The funny thing is, you know, you're gonna meet people that you enjoy being around doing these things. And when it comes to music, for instance, let's say you like listening to more like romantic type of music, right? I was always a romantic at heart. And one of the reasons I liked listening to these type of people, you know, boy bands, Justin Bieber, things like that, is because I got to hear firsthand what a majority of women liked, right? It didn't even have to be the everyday chicks or the chicks who were, you know, I don't know what guys are calling them these days, but like, you know, it didn't even have to be just the girls who, you know, only like those type of things. Like most girls will like one of these, you know, boy bands or like guy singers or whatever. It's just a fact, right? Like it just is. Like I found out a lot of the moms in my church liked Michael Jackson growing up. It was just a thing, right? A lot of these women are gonna like certain things, and you got to hear firsthand like what they enjoy, what these artists are singing about, what these women like to hear. You know, I'm not saying that you got to be that, and I'd also say just to kind of put this out there as well, you can't be the lover boy 100% of the time, right? A lot of guys think, oh, if I'm just the super romantic, the super nice guy, if I act exactly like what these songs and stuff talk about, then I'm going to be a hit. Women are going to love me. No, that's not it. You got to remember, a lot of these guys, they have the looks, they have the form, they have the fortune and the fame, right? They have the charisma. A lot of these guys, that's why you look at a lot of these movie stars, you look at a lot of these, you know, people, they burn through women, right? They can't stay married for long. They're going through divorces. Women leave them. Their lives are in shambles. And you think these guys are like the epitome of, you know, male, just what? Like this super manly dude. Crap happens, dude. Like, you think these men are one thing, but you have to be a man at the end of the day, right? You gotta have a little loving. You gotta have a little bit of a heart, right? You know, it helps initially, right? Especially, you know, talking to women, you know, they have to know you're kind, right? Every woman wants to, you know, have a guy who has a heart, right? But mostly women want a man who's sure of himself. And there's just certain intrinsic things, guys, that are going to be important to women, right? Being strong, get in the gym, find a sport, find something physical that you enjoy, compete, you know, be around other dudes that you can compete with, right? Because what I see sometimes is a lot of guys, you know, I said, you know, be a Magic the Gathering nerd if you're a Magic the Gathering nerd, yes. But also don't neglect your time in the gym. Don't neglect your time being physically healthy. Don't neglect your time trying to socialize with other groups outside of your group, right? That's what you need to be, a social chameleon, right? That's the thing that I learned early on is you need to, don't put on a mask, don't be fake, but be a social chameleon. There's so many guys who are like, I'm this, and I can only be this. This is my identity, right? My identity is this video game. My identity is this freaking D&D. My identity is the gym. My identity is this music. It doesn't have to be, guys. Why are you limiting yourself to one thing, right? Why are you limiting yourself to, like, what happens if you can't go to the gym anymore? Let's say you lose your legs in a car crash. You can only work upper body for the rest of your life. That'd be pretty nice. But like, what if you lose your hearing? What if you fall out of love with a hobby like Magic the Gathering? Your whole life was built off of this. And you're like, yeah, you know what? You know, I'm 28, 29 years old. Maybe my whole life shouldn't revolve around this card game. And all of a sudden you got to start from the ground up and you got to like figure out how to socialize with other people, right? You need to be social. Find out a way to be social, but be genuine. That's why I said, you know, enjoy what you're doing, but be true to who you are, because you're going to be a magnet for people who are true to themselves. And that's why I think I had a very enjoyable childhood, right? I was clumsy in a lot of ways. I was awkward in a lot of ways, right? I didn't understand a lot of social cues, especially in my younger teen years, like, you know, but who does, right? 13 through 15, 16, I was really socially awkward. But as I grew up and I just trial and error, guys, I knew that I was going to embarrass myself. I knew that I was kind of a nut job. I knew that I was kind of an oddball. I was the dude who wore graphic tees all the time, cargo shorts, and dad shoes, right? yes, I was tall, right? I did have that going for me. I'm not gonna lie. I was tall. I kept in pretty good shape, but I was around a bunch of dudes who, they were good-looking dudes, right? They had fitness, they had competition, but they always made things harder on themselves than like they needed to be, right? They were always like, I don't know how to talk to women. I don't know how to do this. I don't know if I should do this. I don't know if I should do. Guys, don't care. Stop thinking about it so much. Stop trying to fit in with everybody. And that's the other thing is this idea of fitting in, right? Don't fit in. Don't fit, like that term fit in. It's like you're trying to fit something in. You're trying to fit a puzzle piece somewhere that doesn't fit, right? It kind of, maybe it's a similar piece and it kind of looks right. It's not the right piece. You're fitting in. You're trying to force something that isn't real. Don't fit in, because eventually you're going to crash and burn, right? You're going to feel like you're cheating yourself. You're going to feel like you wasted time. You're going to end up in people, with situations, with groups. You're going to end up regretting times that you're not genuine. And that's what I realized. So just to kind of tie off this video, I'm going to make another one soon, guys. But to tie this all off is this is something that I lost in some of my 20s, right? Especially I would say like my mid 20s, right? Because when you get to your 20s, I'm sure your 30s, maybe guys in their 40s, can say this too, but it's sort of like you go through these different cycles, right? And you go through these different times and you're kind of restarting again, right? From 10 to 20, right? Some people say it's every 10 years, 12 years, 7 years, whatever it is, right? I like to keep it 10 years. It's easy, it's simple to kind of, your 20s, your 30s, it's very simple. But don't lose your independent genuineness as a kid, man, because the world, what's going to happen is you're going to grow up. You're going to grow up in your 20s, man. You're going to go to college, you're going to work a job, you're going to start doing stuff, and you're going to want to conform and fit in. And the world's going to tell you to do that. The world's going to tell you have to go to every work event. You have to do what the people around you are doing. You have to think and move and look and talk and believe and think the same way that these people around you think. And everybody's like awkwardly trying to fit in with everybody. And you have the more dominant people who kind of take over, and you can tell that the people that they're domineering over, whether it's socially, physically, there's not really a whole lot of physical dominance these days, but very, emotionally, mentally, socially dominant people, and the people under them are just kind of going with them. But you can tell, right? Like, you can tell. I've always been able to tell, right? Because I was a shy kid. I was a really shy kid growing up for most of my life, bullied, picked on, until I got older and bigger and taller than most people. And then I became the bullet. No, just kidding. Well, my younger brothers might say otherwise, but we're on good terms now, thankfully. But people will try to control you. People will try to mold you. People will try to change you, and you can tell, right? A lot of times when a bully's because they weren't seen, they weren't heard. Maybe they had an abusive childhood upbringing. They don't know how to act, right? And so they take it on other people, and it's not excusing it, but it's true. You can tell when people are easily manipulated. You can tell when they are kind of being used by people. Like, I've seen this in the workplace and other places in my life, right? People who are under, let's say there's like sort of a leader, just a natural, alpha male or whatever you want to call it. And, that can be used for good or evil. And let's say this guy's just, he's a complete douche and he doesn't care about people's feelings or, being kind or anything. He's very shady and slimy. You can tell when people don't like it, but there's something in them that feels like they have to go along with this. They have to, well, I gotta fit in, if I want to have a community, if I want to have a friend group, I gotta just kind of take the beatings and take the insults and take the, I gotta fit in, I gotta do what they want to do, go where they want to go, eat what they want to, I gotta do it, right? Guys, you don't have to. I fell into that trap a little bit in my 20s and I regretted it, right? I'll talk about that in a different video. But if it's advice, guys, I can give you, especially, from 10 to 20, really 10 to 18, 19 years old, I would say, hey, be true to yourself, man. Figure out what you want to do. Go, if things interest you, figure them out, right? Like, figure it out. Don't fall into this trap of trying to fit in and look cool, right? I know that's such a lame thing to say, but it's true. You guys don't realize the world's trying to conform you. The world's trying to make you start buying these brands and looking the part and talking the part and acting the part at a young age, so that you do this for the rest of your life, so that they have lifelong consumers. Guys, you're the product. You're being marketed to, right? The clothes ain't the product, the shoes ain't the product, right? I'm not saying, you can't have these things. I'm saying figure it out. Figure out what you want. Be true to yourself, man. Stand up for yourself. Like, people poke fun at you. So a lot of times you don't even have to do anything. You're just kind of like, whatever, right? You can walk away. You can just stop being around those people. Poke fun back at them, right? Stand up for yourself. That's life. You got to stand up for yourself. It's a dog-eat-dog world, man. But do you like listening to Justin Bieber, dude? Friggin' go out and sing As Long As You Love Me at the top of your lungs, man. And funny enough, you'll probably find a chick who likes Justin Bieber, and you guys might have something to talk about. And who knows? But you wouldn't know unless you weren't true to yourself, man. Man, that sounds really Disney. I don't really like that. Let me rephrase that before I end the video. Be you. All right, guys. Lord willing, I'll see you on the next one.